In typical Seinfeld fashion, I've got to ask, what's the deal with the Fender Jazzmaster Elvis Costello model anyway? Released as part of the 50th anniversary back in 2008, the Elvis Costello model appeared in the Fender catalog for 2 years, from April 2008 until October 2009. The guitar was preceded by the Jazzmasters made in Japan model back in 2007 that lasted until 2011 when it was replaced by the Squier model, and it was succeeded by the Sonic Youth Jazzmaster models, the Thurston Moore and the Lee Ronaldo. This wasn't actually the first time that Fender released signature Jazzmasters. Back in 1996, Don Wilson of the Ventures received his own signature Jazzmaster model. Actually, the whole band received their own signature models by Fender. So what makes the Elvis Costello Jazzmaster model the Elvis Costello Jazzmaster model? Well, based on his original Jazzmaster that was heavily refinished when he got it, it had a furniture varnish DIY paint job that the signature model tries to emulate. This was actually the guitar Elvis played when he and the Attractions, his backing band, performed on an episode of Saturday Night Live back in December of 1977, and instead ended up getting banned from the show. But that's an entirely different story. That guitar these days doesn't actually sport that finish. It has a red paint job, not to be confused with his other Jazzmaster that's in an Antigua Silverburst finish. If you look at both of his originals, you'll see that they've got his name inlaid on the fretboard, with the Silverburst one having the complete name, Elvis Costello, and the red one that this one was based on has just his surname on it. It is worth mentioning that his original decal was in fact a jazz bass replacement decal that they simply snipped the bass part off, and that it also had a mystery knob and a switch, but nobody seems to know what they did. I picked my guitar apart and I looked at all the parts inside, as you do. And the neck, electronics, and body were all made in September of 2008. These guitars listed at $2,149 when they were released. I looked that up, and in today's money, we'd be looking at something closer to $2,650. I took a gander at the Reverb sales list from the past year or so, and the guitar has kept its value really well. Even one sale going up as high as $4,000. While I almost associate this guitar with Jessica Dobson of Deep Sea Diver fame more than I do Elvis these days, although he does play his originals still and has done on every record, one can't deny how iconic Elvis looked in his younger days, wearing his huge spectacles, typical smug smirk, and rocking his original 60s Jazzmaster, slamming chords, thrashing about on stage, howling how there's no action. My rig today is really simple. I've got the Sonic Research Turbo Tuner Mini, super accurate tuner. The cloisons on this guitar aren't accurate enough for the tuner, so it's a real hassle tuning it. My friend has borrowed me this Zvex Box of Rock. It's a really cool, like Marshall in a box type of pedal. Jazzmasters has his own, which is 2 of them, and it's in one, and it's called Double Rock. So I like to call this one the Single Rock. The pedal after that is a real special pedal of mine. It was actually built specifically for me. My good friend Jake, they build pedals in, I was about to say Antarctica, in Australia.
That's a knife.
Jake goes under the name of Instrument on Instagram. Check Jake's stuff out. Lastly, I've got the Holy Grail by Electro Harmonix. I've got the big box version that my friend Anton also lent me. I was considering using the flurb function, but ultimately after trying it out, I chose not to. This all goes through the Strymon Iridium. I'm using the Marshall amp with the cab B. The 3 mods that I've done on this guitar are all 3 fully reversible. I've added a stay trim bridge. I flipped the 2 outer pivot screws on the vibrato unit at the behest of Mike Adams. And I've also added a StewMac 1-degree neck shim. For more Jazzmaster setup tricks, Google demystifying the Fender Jazzmaster and Jaguar, an excellent source of setup guides from Mike Adams. I'll actually even put them in the description. I'll link to it. Spec-wise, it's a pretty straight-up basic Jazzmaster. We got 21 frets, the vintage size, slab rosewood fretboard, flat sawn maple neck, a 3-piece outer body, rhythm circuit, very important, and your basic Jazzmaster setup otherwise. The only differences here are that, first of all, the vibrato unit has a different type of spring, so you get a different vibe when you're using it. Not something that I'd ever say, hey, if you can get that aftermarket, you need to go and get it. Honestly, if I didn't know that the spring was different, I wouldn't even have noticed it, I think. And this comes from a guy who has both the Descendant unit and the Master unit. I've yet to try the Fender Panorama unit, but honestly, had you just given me this one or a basic AVRI unit, I wouldn't have thought twice. The second part are the actual pickups on the guitar. People keep on writing online that these are AVRI 62 units, and that's not correct actually. They were specifically made for this signature model. They're called the Special Design American Jazzmaster Single Coil Pickups. That's like the official name for them. So these are not AVRI 62s. So to anyone who keeps on writing that online when people ask, I see you, and that's not correct.
We interrupt your irregularly scheduled programming to bring you this breaking news. Pre-pandemic photos of Elvis Costello rocking what seems to be a 1965 CBS era Fender Jazzmaster refinished in blue sparkle have been discovered online. Unfortunately, no more information is available at present. Your irregularly scheduled programming shall now resume.
To those who actually care, I feel like I should mention that the Fender decal is underneath the finish. Like I said, to those who care. And it's also, of course, got Elvis's signature on the back. Reason why I'm mentioning that the decal is underneath is, if you take a look at my, for example, my AV65,
yeah, baby,
American Vintage 65 model, you'll actually be able to feel the decal on top of the finish, if you care. It came in a brown vintage style hard case with the yellow lining on the insides. Very nice case, like honestly, I really like that case. What was included were a vintage style cord, leather strap, the bridge cover, and you also got a set of 1150 Fender flat wound strings. And Fender don't produce flat wound strings today, so yeah, keep them if you got them, or play them. So the reason why I'm making this video, not because I just want to do like some kind of contemporary review or whatever. I did Google the reviews that came out and people didn't understand offsets back then. Everyone was complaining that the bridge sucked and everything. Of course. This guitar is on an upward trend. People are paying more and more for it. Like I mentioned earlier, someone paid $4,000 for it. If you look on Reverb, people are putting them up for buy it now at much higher prices.
No, God, no!
And I've been seeing people actually online where someone's like, hey, I've got a lead on an Elvis Costello model, should I get it? And there's always gonna be someone who says, it's the best. And of course that intrigued me because, you know, I want the best Jazzmaster. So I went ahead and bought one, and I wrote to the guy, I said, hey buddy, I'm not giving you your Reverb asking prices,
No!
but I'll give you this, and he agreed to it. I of course wanted to find out if it's worth it or not. Had I only had this guitar, I would have been super happy with it. And it was very similar to my other Jazzmasters. Don't get me wrong, it's a really cool guitar, but unless you're an avid Elvis Costello fan, or you just love furniture varnish, there are a lot of Jazzmasters out there to choose from. I'm just a dude on the internet, so take whatever I'm saying here with
a grain of salt.
So I think this quote is a good way to round off the video. Popular is not the same as good. Rare is not the same as valuable. Worth is what you want. What the f was it? Popular is not the same as good. Rare is not the same as valuable. Worth is what someone's willing to pay, not what you want to get. Namaste. Lastly, I want to say thanks a lot for the support I got on the last video. I never imagined that people like Carlos Lopez, master builder at the Fender Custom Shop, would actually see it, go out and buy a Squier Vista Series Venus 12 and tell me that he's gonna, inspired by my video, build a new one again in the custom shop. This will be the first time they've been produced by Fender since the 90s. So I feel very honored to have had some part, some really minor part in that. Absolute biggest compliment to the video was that Tim George, he actually wrote, he left a comment. That was like the sweetest surprise. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now, finally, the final grand finale, the moment you've all been waiting for, a look at the backside.